Hi there, welcome or welcome back to our channel. In this video, we're going to do the final part of our series on phrasal verbs. So if you've watched from the beginning until the end, you'll basically be an expert on understanding and using phrasal verbs in your speaking as well as in your writing. During the video, we'll also do some sentence transformation practice, and that's going to help to prepare you for the dreaded use of English part 4. So you definitely want to stick around for that. Some phrasal verbs in English have 3 parts. So there is the verb and 2 particles. Now, these are the trickiest ones to use and get right simply because there is more to remember. So as always, practice and repetition makes perfect. Let's take a look at one example. So Grace is looking pretty unwell. Perhaps she's ill, or she's got a headache, or she's stressed. So she says to her friend, "I'm afraid I really don't feel going out tonight." What do you think the 2 missing particles here are? The 2 missing particles are up to. So you could say, "I don't feel up to going out tonight," or "I feel up to meeting you later." So to feel up to is to have or to not have the energy to do something. Now, if there is an object, then the object comes last. You see, if they are 2 particles, then the phrasal verb is inseparable. And as you probably know, if you watched the last video, an inseparable phrasal verb cannot be separated. So the verb and the particles have to stick together. Let's take a look at another example. Watch that gap. It can be quite dangerous. What do you think the missing particles here are? So if you've ever been to London or you've ever used the tube, then I'm sure you've seen this very famous saying, mind the gap. So to mind the gap is to watch out for the gap. To watch out for something is to be quite careful about something or to pay attention to something that could be quite dangerous. So how about we do a little challenge to see how many of these 3-part phrasal verbs you can come up with. So can you guess the missing particles to complete the 3-part phrasal verbs? Pause the video and press play when you're ready to check your answers. So how did that go? I guess some of them might be a little bit tricky, huh? Well, let's go through them one by one and see which ones you got. So number 1, to catch up on something is to do something you did not have time to do before. Number 2, to look forward to something is to be excited for it to happen in the future. Number 3, to face up to something is to accept that a difficult or unpleasant situation exists. And number 4 is to look down on someone. So this is to think that you are better than another person. So these are 4 potentially useful 3-part phrasal verbs. Why don't you make a note of them in your notebook? Okay, so did you enjoy doing that little challenge? Well, if so, it might be time for you to put your knowledge to the test. If you want, download the free practice pack from Home Studies, and there you can see exactly how many of the most common 3-part phrasal verbs in English you know. Just click the link below. When you're trying to make sense of a new phrasal verb, the context is key. You need to try and understand the meaning and the situation around that phrasal verb. So take a look at this scene. What do you think is going on? Well, there are 2 girls in a shop, and to me, it looks like they're up to no good. So they're trying to steal a handbag from the shop. And we can assume that they hope they don't get caught. So they think they can get away with the crime. So this is the example in the context. What do you think to get away with a crime means? Yeah, that's right. To get away with something is to do something bad, like shoplifting, and not be punished for it. So here you see, you can deduce, you can work out the meaning from the context around it. So let's do some more practice with that. I'm going to give you a number of examples and you try and figure out the meaning from context. Good luck. Binna is trying to come up with an answer. So what is the context here? We can see from the picture that she's thinking really hard about something. So what do you think the phrasal verb to come up with something means? As you might have guessed, to come up with something is to think of it. So you can come up with an answer, come up with an idea or a plan. Louisa can't put up with her child screaming. So what is the context here? Well, you can see she looks completely exhausted and frustrated, that's for sure. What do you then think the phrasal verb to put up with something means? Well, it's to accept something without complaining. Now, we often use this phrasal verb with a negative, so she can't or she won't put up with this. This means that you can't tolerate someone or something. Cole's dad is his hero. He really looks up to him. So what's the context here? What do you think the phrasal verb to look up to someone means? Do you think it's positive or negative? Yeah, absolutely right. It is overwhelmingly positive. To look up to someone like your dad or your grandma, your teacher, a famous footballer or a historical figure, this means that that person is your hero. You really respect and admire them. I haven't got around to decorating the house yet. So here we see all of the Christmas decorations still in boxes. So what's the context? What do you think the phrasal verb to get around to something means? Do you think it's something that you have been meaning to do for a while or something that you've just thought about? Yep, so to get around to something means to finally do something that you have intended to do for a long time. So you get around to putting up the Christmas tree or get around to cleaning out the attic or calling the tax office. In these cases, you see, we use get around to plus the gerund, so the ing form of the verb. So getting, cleaning, or putting up the tree. Uh-oh, we're about to run out of petrol. What's the context here? Take a look at the fuel gauge and have a guess what you think the phrasal verb to run out of something means. Did you know that one? Well, it means to have no more of something, or that something you had before is now finished. And this can be something tangible, like you run out of bread or milk or eggs or petrol. Or it can be something intangible, like you run out of time or energy or enthusiasm for something. And finally, Nico has grown out of playing with these toys. So the kid looks really bored, doesn't he? What is the full context here? What do you think to grow out of something means? Any ideas? Well, it means to become too old for something. So if you grow out of toys, then they're too childish for your age. You can also grow out of clothes if you become physically bigger or taller. And you can even grow out of a dream, like I wanted to be an astronaut when I was a kid, but I grew out of the idea, so I no longer want to do that job. Now let's do another task. The goal here is for you to integrate these phrasal verbs into your speaking and writing so that you can upgrade those skills and also improve your sentence transformation, which, as you know, is super important for Use of English Part 3. So rewrite each sentence so that it contains the phrasal verbs in brackets. You may have to change the form. Pause the video and press play when you're ready to check your transformed sentences. So how did you get on with that? Do you think you managed to transform the sentences? Let's take a look. So number 1 is, I've finally come up with a solution to the problem. Number 2, I haven't got around to putting up the shelves. Number 3, I'm afraid we've run out of milk. Number 4, she's always looked up to her grandma. Number 5, I think he'll grow out of this dream to become a rapper. And number 6, I don't know why Janet puts up with Ali. He's so rude. So when you check your answers, make sure that you've got each of these particles perfect, because phrasal verbs have to be word perfect, and also that you've used the right forms of the verb. And now it's over to you. How many of the phrasal verbs we covered in this video did you already know? Can you think of any other three-part phrasal verbs which we haven't discussed in the video? Why don't you write down your examples in the comments section below? Firstly, we'd love to hear from you. And secondly, we'd love the opportunity to give you feedback on your writing. So, get those ideas into the comments section and we'll get back to you. Well, that's going to do it. That is the end of our video series on phrasal verbs. I hope now that you have a really good understanding of the importance of using phrasal verbs to sound more like a native speaker. If you do feel like you got something from this video, go ahead and share it on your socials. And don't forget to leave your examples in the comments section below. We would love to hear from you and get the chance to interact with you a little bit. So have a lovely rest of your day, and I do so hope I'll be seeing you in the next video.